Throw the final score to the side. There's two stats in TCU's loss to Duke that completely define the game. Oh yeah, it's Locked On Horned Frogs. Play my music.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? I'm Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, host of the Locked On Horned Frogs podcast. We're going to close out today's episode, very brief episode, with a look at the secret weapon for TCU women's basketball game ahead of the second round, and her name is Taylor Bigby. But we're going to start off today's episode looking at TCU's loss to Duke and giving some more context to the game. Because if you want to just see the final score, it's 81-58. That's two numbers that will perfectly depict what the game ended like. TCU lost big, Duke won big. Like, okay, cool. But how did we get there? The final score just tells you the result. But I got two stats that are going to give you the process. That's turnovers and free throws. That is the two stats to highlight as we get through the 40 minutes of action, because I think it told the story of this game. I'm going to talk a multitude of stats and multitude of players, but let's keep our focus on the fact that TCU had 9 turnovers in this game compared to Duke's 17. And then let's compare the fact that TCU was 5 of 10 from free throws. Meanwhile, Duke was 20 of 23. These are the most important stats because when Duke struggled, it was because of turnovers. But what TCU couldn't comprehend early was to stop fouling. And it felt like that continued the entire time. I could have looked at fouls as the stat. I think that let's combine stats with free throws and fouls. Let's put those together, right? Because that's really the truth of the matter. Is you had 5 fouls for Xavier Edmonds. You had 4 fouls for LT. You had 2 fouls for David Punch early. And then when you had the blow to the nose, it felt like he had a 3rd foul at some point, but I guess he only ended with 2. You had 4 fouls for Tanner Toolson. Like, these are too many fouls, and it led to the best source of offense for Duke. Duke was struggling. They went 9 minutes without scoring a field goal in this game. It went 9 minutes between the end of the first half and the beginning of the second. That's great defense by TCU, but oftentimes they bailed them out with free throws. 20 of 23 compared to 5 of 10. Now, what you'll see in there is 2 big differences between the free throw numbers. 20 of 23, that's good for an 87% free throw rate. Meanwhile, TCU being 5 of 10 is 50% versus 87%. One team's extremely more efficient from the line, made the best use of their time at the line, and one team got their way more often than the other team. It'd be one thing if TCU was the efficient team, but didn't get there often. It'd be one thing if they got there often, but wasn't as efficient. You don't want that. But it'd be one thing if it was that. Duke got there all the time and was very efficient. So they didn't get just 10 attempts. They got 23. They didn't only make 50% of them. They made 87% of them. And when it was early in the game and TCU was having a great defensive performance and they were giving Cameron Boozer, because there's 2 of them on the team, when they was giving Cameron Boozer a really hard time, meanwhile, Isaiah Evans is out here making difficult circus shots from 3-point land, getting fouled and getting a 4-point play, or driving and getting a 3-point play. I swear there was at least 3 to 5 and ones that Duke made within the first 20 to 30 minutes of this game. 20 to 30 minutes of the game. But that's how you stay afloat. The final score was 81-58. And I'll be honest, I don't think the game was that bad. The final score is horrendous. You got beat by 23. It's going to look like Duke bounced back after a first-round struggle versus Siena. Like, it's going to look a certain way. But I don't think that Duke just came in here and dominated the game in a fashion that 23 points would tell you. The truth of the matter is this game was tight. It was tied at 44 at one point. It was tied at 44 points at one point. And after that, Duke went on to score 37. TCU went on to score 14. Right? And let me see at what point it was tied at 44, just to give you a really good breakdown of where it was. This was at the, I'm mad they don't give me the final or the I'm gonna have to give this to you next week. On Monday, I should say. So not really next week, but on Monday, because ESPN, as good as they were as giving these stats this week or this time, because the first game, that wasn't the case. In the 8-9 matchup, that just wasn't the case. Let's see if they have them up on TCU's website already. Because if they already have them on TCU's website, I can give you this and give you a little bit more detail on it. Yeah, they don't. In the live, unfortunately, the live stats just aren't available at the current moment. Yeah. But the play-by-play isn't giving the score. Isn't giving the score right now. That's fine. Anyway, the point being, it was tied at 44 at one point. And then TCU went on a drought. Duke went on a run. And that's the difference in the game. But turnovers is how they stayed around. Because Duke in the first half was shooting. I did screenshot it knowing I didn't have live stats. Knowing I didn't have live stats, I said at halftime, let's screenshot this. And Duke had they had 7 turnovers at halftime. They came in and gave you 10, and they were really lackadaisical with the ball early in the second half. So you saw a real ramp up. But once they got going, it was over. Once they started getting Boozer involved, at first, I think Edmonds leaving did a real disservice to TCU because, and we will talk about this on either Monday or Tuesday. I'm not quite sure yet. When we're going to do it. But on Monday or Tuesday, we'll talk about how this was a very Xavier Edmonds-like game where you saw the special offense, you saw the tenacity, but then he had the foul troubles. He ended up fouling out in this game with 6 minutes left. It was pretty much over once he fouled out. But he had 4, and he had to sit out. He had to sit out much of the game. He only played 20 minutes in this game. So even before that last 6 minutes, you had 34 possible minutes he could have played. He only played 20 of them. That's a real difficult number, and it's all because of foul trouble. But once he left, you seen Boozer start getting active. You know, Boozer had 2 points in the first half. He had the same amount of points as he had fouls. He had 2 fouls and 2 points. Then he ended up finishing the game with 19 points. So that was just a difficult one. And I feel like Edmonds' departure it took away someone who was strong enough to play tough with him, who was giving him work offensively when need to be. Edmonds was playing so well, but this is just the story of who Edmonds has been this year. He's a very talented offensive player, very physical player, but he's also someone who's been prone to turnovers. So we'll get into that, like I said, on a much deeper level on Monday or Tuesday. I'll probably do some research, get some some stats from previous games and whatnot. But at the end of the day, let's play a graphic because we haven't played this in a long time. But when we're talking about this matchup, there's only 2 things to lean into.
This is what you'll be talking about.
I haven't played a graphic since football season, so I just wanted to play that video. But the thing is that we'll be talking about is turnovers and free throw attempts. Because when we talk about the good of this game, it's going to be TCU's really strong pressuring defense, TCU's ability to force Duke into being discombobulated. It's just that once Duke settled in, there was a timeout. And there was a point where I remember, I think it was right after the timeout, maybe a couple of possessions after. But Cameron Boozer brought the ball up after a missed shot. So I know it wasn't straight out of the timeout. But after a missed shot, Boozer brought the ball up at half court, and he slowed it down. It was a regular play. You'll see it every single game. You could flip on March Madness right now. You could go watch highlights right now. You're going to see someone slow down the ball after crossing midcourt. But it was something that was not shown earlier in the game. Both TCU and Duke seemed like they were just running. At that point, it felt like it favored TCU. But once Duke settled, once Duke started putting things together, you saw TCU rushing, and it didn't feel like it was calculated pace. It felt like it was frantic. And that was the big difference to me, is at first you were moving fast. At first you were pushing pace. Then it felt like you were trying to catch up. And you missed like 13 of the last 15 or something like that, field goal attempts throughout the game. They flashed that graphic up, but you saw the struggle. And the struggle came with just throwing things up. The offense looked frantic. Offense looked frantic. There's a difference between moving with pace and kind of being out of control. And I felt like TCU moved from being frantic or from pushing pace to being out of control. And that was another huge difference. But turnovers worked, didn't get to the line. Just didn't get to the line. He did too much fouling, too many jump in the air. They did pump fakes, boom, got him. It was just too often. It was too often. But let's move forward to the women's side because Taylor Bigby is the secret weapon. And I think you could probably give this to 2 to 3 people, but I think Bigby is the one to highlight amongst everybody. Everybody. Because if Bigby is on, if Bigby plays the way she played in the first round, she's not just a secret weapon for this matchup tomorrow. She's the secret weapon for the entire March Madness run. Let's get into that as we continue with Locked On Horned Frogs. Today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. This is Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who know, the score never tells the whole story. And I just broke it down. 81-58. Yes, that is a great number to break down the game. It tells you how much TCU lost by, how much Duke won by. I get it. But there's more to the game than just the final score. It's the 5 fouls for Xavier Edmonds that slowed down what looked to be another powerful game for him. He got started early. He was scoring early. He was showing the tenacity early. Xavier Edmonds, to me, is the best player on this team. And the one thing that always seems to disrupt him, it's not the mess he has to fight through. It's the fouls. It's the foul trouble that you cannot fight through. Makes you have to sit on the bench. That is what I believe truly changed this game. There's more to these players than the highlights. It's the early mornings, the late night runs, the constantly showing up for the squad on and off the court. So why not highlight some of the lesser known, lesser paid attention to stats, such as fouls? This is the all new Mazda CX-5 moves the same way with more space to connect, a bold new design, and more intuitive technology. So you can stay connected to the road. In every position you play, the all-new Mazda CX-5, more to move every side of you. Today's episode is also brought to you by Supply House. Now, I'm just telling you this, you would not show up to a game day without a plan, and you wouldn't show up to a job without the right parts. And that's why Supply House is in your starting lineup. Always is the right call to make that number one. Here's the stats. 300,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products, 500 tried and true brands, and 90% of the country is in the 1 to 2 day delivery zone. So you get great parts, reliable brands, and quick service. What else do you need? Need a last minute coupling, a compressor, a press tool, whatever it is, they got it. They got it there ready for you at your disposal. If you're a pro in the trades, you can join the MVP of Rewards programs and become a trade master. Pros get exclusive members-only pricing. Love that. Priority shipping and industry-leading customer service. Visit supplyhouse.com/TM to learn more about becoming a trade master. Use the promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com, promo code SH5. Supply House, real people, real service. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. I understand that TCU men's are out of this March Madness, but the women are still here, right? The women are still here. So as you get ready for tomorrow's game, you want to highlight TCU versus Washington. Can Taylor Bigby do it again? Can Olivia Miles get started? Can Marta Suarez get active? What's going to happen in this game? But just because the men are out doesn't mean that you can't put some more money on March Madness. I mean, at this point, I don't want to highlight any more games because, who knows when you're watching. But whenever you are watching, look at what games are going on. See what games are currently active and get involved in the live action, or just check out the games that are upcoming. Doesn't matter. Go to FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com. Play your game. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked On Horned Frogs, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. Now, listen. TCU absolutely blew UC San Diego out the water. Blew them out the water. That's not going to happen to Washington. And Taylor Bigby may not have another 27-point game, right? Like, that was the best game of her season, best game of her career. Like, I get it. I'm not asking for her to score 27 points. She is just the secret weapon because she's not the first. Is she one of the first 5 names brought up? She might be 4. She may be 4 or 5. Right? Like, you're going to talk Olivia Miles. You're going to talk Marta Suarez. You're going to talk Donovan Hunter. Those are the first 3 that you're going to mention. And then you probably bring up Silva and then maybe Bigby. But I feel like because Silva plays a different role, Silva's a big, right? So, like, there's something a little bit separate. But Bigby is the sharpshooter. And if she shoots the way that she shot in the first round, even if it instead of 7 of 9, she ends up going 4 of 6, 5 of 7, 5 of 8, right? Like, let's just say she knocks down 4 to 5 3-pointers in a game. Because that's what she shot from 3, 7 of 9. Seven of 9 from the field, from 3-pointer. Excuse me, I'm sorry. 7 of 9 from 3-point in the field. If she can do something similar to that, I was trying to get specific and get numbers, and let me not do all that. Let's not get overly into the weeds with it. If Bigby has a good game, if Bigby can consistently be that third piece, TCU could really make a run here. Because I've been clamoring for someone to step up. And I wanted it to be Bigby. I always felt like that was the best person for it to be because she's a 3-point shooter. While I think that Silva and Basham and being bigs inside the paint is great, with Bigby, you get that same spacing. I mentioned this with Micah Robinson. Last week, I think. I guess this week, technically. It's the weekend, so my mind's like shifted. I don't usually do weekend episodes. But with Micah Robinson, I talk about how his shooting from outside opened up space for Punch and opened up space for Edmonds. And with that, they're typically post players. That's not necessarily Suarez's and Miles's isolated role. They can both play inside and outside, with Miles being a driver, Suarez being post up on the inside, but then they can both play on the perimeter. But the best thing for Miles is when you have an open space that she can drive, because now she can drive and kick. She can drive and finish. She can drive or she can find Silva in the middle. You don't want to sag off of Bigby because she's on fire. These are so many different traits to me that Bigby brings to the game when she's on. When Bigby is on, you look at a different team. You look at a different team than even when Hunter is on, to be honest, right? Because now you have that 3-point element, and it's something that I don't think anyone else brings like Bigby. 3-pointer, more spacing, another option. When Taylor Bigby is on, you don't feel like all the pressure is on Suarez and Miles. You don't. That's my biggest fear. Is you have great stars, but you need supporting cast. Bigby in that first round, yes, I get it. Let me read off the stat line real quick. Bigby finished that game with 27 points, 2 blocks, 7 of 9 from 3-point, 8 of 10 from the field, right? 4 of 6 from free throw. I'm not asking for all of that. And it was crazy. I wish they had the breakdown, but I think like 13 or something points was in the first half, and we've seen her do that. And then she, she'll kind of draw back and it become the Suarez and Miles show again, because now they're running the point. They're running things, right? It's when you have 2 stars, sometimes it's difficult for your supporting cast. But in this one, Bigby just kept firing all game long. That's what I'm looking for. If I can get 4 quarters of quality from Taylor Bigby scoring wise, TCU is going to be difficult. If every single quarter I'm seeing some solid 3-point shooting, 3 or 4, right? Like, let's just give it some leniency. That's going to be scary, man. And I know she can do it because Bigby is a sharp shooter and she gets some open looks. When you play on a team with players like Suarez, play on a team with a player like Miles, you are going to get open looks. And if Bigby can knock it down, TCU is a much better team than even we talk about on this show. So we'll see what happens tomorrow against Washington. Be fun. I hate that they played it at 9 o'clock. I think that is crazy. I think that is absolutely terrible. especially being someone who's on Central Time. Now, West Coast Washington, yeah, you get to, oh, yeah, it's regular for me. But for over here in Texas, hated that. But if you win, then you're going to go to Sacramento and you probably end up catching some more of those. But tough break for TCU. I hope they're able to push through that. And Taylor Bigby will be a big reason on why they will be, if they can get it done. But we'll be back tomorrow. We'll be back Monday. Excuse me. That game is so late. We will not be back tomorrow. We'll be back on Monday. It'll be Sarah and I talking about Washington versus TCU, talking about TCU spring ball. In the meantime, in between time, take care. Get a nap so you can watch that entire game. Stay blessed. Peace.